What is up, harvesters? Welcome back to the returning viewers. If you're brand new here, welcome to Hobby Harvest. My name is Ken. So today we are going to try to get into the mind of a deer and figure out what they do in a 24-hour period. And once we know that, we can figure out where they are based on the area we hunt, and we can try to hunt them a lot better if we just know what they are doing naturally in a given day. So I'm going to start the day out at actually noon in the middle of the day, and we'll go a full 24 hours all the way back to noon. So at noon, the deer are going to be in their bedding areas. So these are daytime bedding areas. I know some people think bedding and they think nighttime, but these are daytime bedding areas, although deer will lay down throughout the night sporadically, but that's typically going to be a lot closer to a food source. These daytime bedding areas are going to be in a very thick, untouched area of the woods. You have to keep in mind that humans are active during the daytime, so these area of the woods are going to be far away from human activity, where the deer can have a secluded area to lay down, be in cover, and feel safe during all of the daytime human pressure and all of the other things that are going on during the day, all that extra noise. Now what happens is they stay in those daytime bedding areas and they don't just like sleep for 8 hours straight. They kind of doze off and then they kind of wake up and they'll kind of wander around a little bit within, say, 100-yard area in that bedding area, depending on how big it is. And they'll browse on the stuff in that bedding area. Now this could be acorns. If it's the summer, this could just be weeds and other things that are growing in the area. As we head into fall and winter, they'll be munching on like shrub tips. So they will like those soft shrub tips. So this will be things like red osier dogwood, things like box elder, anything that's like more of a softer wood. So if you guys like go in the woods and kind of snap some of those branches open, you'll see which ones are kind of more flexible before they break and bend and which ones are more like an oak that just snaps or like a maple that snaps. Now they do also like things that are younger and more tender than like mature trees, obviously. Anything that's softer, just think of like chewing on that and how hard that would be on your teeth. That's the same thing that they're experiencing too, and they will pick things that are soft and at their level too is the other thing. So keep in mind, this is all going to be stuff close to the ground. We're not talking about high canopy here. So, all right, they're in these daytime bedding areas. They wake up at about that golden hour, so about an hour or two before dark. When you're outside too, you'll notice that the sun's getting lower in the sky, the light's dimming a little bit. You get what photographers call that golden hour, where the sunlight's just really perfect. And the deer see that too, of course, so they say, hey, time to get up, it's getting dark. And they'll get up and they'll stretch and they'll start to head towards their favorite soft, leafy green food source. Now, if we put in food plots, that's where they're headed this time of day. And that's, of course, why, if you're going to seriously put in habitat improvements on your property, we need to have food plots, because we can guarantee where the herd is headed at this exact time of day. Now, this can be ag, this could be an alfalfa field, this could be anything else in the woods that you've identified as a PM food source that you're always seeing the deer out there or whatever. Now, they're going to head there. Now, depending on where that food source is and where that bedding area is, that line of travel is going to take a certain amount of time given the distance, terrain, anything they might run into along the way that might delay them. Could be other deer, could be a predator, it could be humans, whatever. But they will eventually get there. The thing that when we try to hunt a PM food source though, is we need them there close enough that they get there before dark, because if they get there after dark, we're past shooting hours. So this is stuff I talk about in other videos, how to get the deer to your food source before dark. I'm sure I'll talk about it in other future videos as well, so hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. But what these deer will eventually do is get to that food source. In an ideal hunter situation, they get to that food source before it gets dark so that you get a shot on them either on the food source or on the way to the food source. Now, they will fill up on that soft, leafy green mass that is in either that food plot or that egg field or whatever, because they've been eating those hard shrub tips and acorns and whatever else all day long. They kind of need to like wash it down with something softer and help their digestive system out a little bit. So once they're on those food plots, they don't just stay there all night. Once it gets dark or a little after dark, Now they're going to head off and explore. So all night long, deer go off and they either hit up favorite food sources that are in areas that they know do not have a lot of cover. So this could be like apple trees right next to a house. You'll see deer come to apple trees that are out in the middle of a mowed lawn and eat on those, but typically after dark. And then they'll also wander around looking for their next favorite food source. This is also like if you put in a food plot for the first time, how the deer will eventually find it, but they're not going to find it before dark. They're going to find it while they're wandering around in the middle of the night. If they find it and they like it because you did a really good job at putting in a high quality food plot, they'll now find a new bedding area that relates to that food source, and you'll completely change this whole 24-hour cycle that we're talking about. Again, the huge advantage of putting in food plots on private property. But what they'll do is they'll continue to wander around all night looking for their next favorite food source, going out, doing whatever, pounding those big egg fields out in the middle of the egg fields at night with the cover of darkness. But then what happens is it starts to get light out in the morning. This is that very early morning time when the birds start chirping. If you guys have ever been camping in like tents and it's like not even light out, but the birds are starting to chirp already. I'm talking about that time of day. The deer will sense that and hear that as well. And that's their alarm clock to say, I need to get back to that safety of my daytime bedding area. But they make it to who knows where in the middle of the night. This is when you hear that, bucks have a 3-mile home range. That is just an average. That can be all over the place depending on terrain and amount of deer in your area, the amount of cover in your area, all of that. But they will, wherever they got to, maybe it is 3 miles away, now need to head back to that daytime bedding area that they know is safe, secure, and comfortable for them to hang out in during the daylight hours. So as they head back to that area, a good thing from a hunting point of view is you want to hunt thick areas of cover that relate back to that bedding area, because the deer, as it continues to get lighter and lighter and lighter out, this could be until 9:30, 10:30 in the morning, depending on how far away they got. They will be using the thickest line of cover that they can use to keep themselves covered to get all the way back to their bedding area. So I have had great success hunting these thick areas of the woods. Now, I've put in like a man-made deer trail through them. I just put another video out called the Poor Man Deer Funnel and how to make that. So if you guys haven't seen that one already, go check that out. These are those areas that I love to hunt in the morning as they are relating back to those bedding areas. They're going to come through that thick part of the woods, right through my pinch point, right where I'm waiting for them. And I have shot the majority of my bucks from stands that are set up exactly like that. So look for those thick areas of the woods in the morning that are going back into those secluded bedding areas. That's where the deer are going to come through, because they're not going to run just through an open field in the middle of the day, or in the middle of the morning, I should say. They're going to use even if it's just a field edge for cover instead of being out in the middle of the field. Now, if they have no other option, yeah, they'll run right through the middle of the field, but typically they will take cover if you give it to them. Now, what they're going to do is get all the way back to that bedding area. And I should mention that they're not necessarily running back there. They are still a grazing animal. They're going to browse their way, kind of take a mouthful here and there and slowly work their way back there. But by the time they get back there, maybe it's early morning, mid-morning, nearing noon already, they will then again bed down, and you will have them there during the daylight hours. So when we hunt, we don't want to just go into those bedding areas in the middle of the day and bust them out, because now they're going to completely shift this 24 hours of movement to a different bedding area, different food source. Once you bust them, they're gone typically. They don't just come back the next day. They'll let it cool off for a few days before they come back. So we don't want to bust them out of those bedding areas. You can hunt a bedding area, but make sure you get in there in the early morning before they return, so that you don't risk busting them out of there. Now, the problem with that is that they return, and if you're selective in what you want to harvest, now they all bed down under you and you're stuck in your tree until they decide to leave. Otherwise, again, you're going to bust them out. You're going to completely reset this 24 hours of movement to a different area of the woods that you have no idea about. Your trail cameras are now useless of what they've been telling you for the past few weeks, because they'll just completely change their movement. And this is what a lot of guys do, where they say, I got deer coming in on camera every day. They go out and they hunt poorly that first day. The deer completely shift their movement And now they're like, well, where'd the deer go? The deer all went nocturnal. Well, yeah, because the deer went and bedded somewhere else now, and they're relating to a different food source, and they're still coming back to check on your area, but in the middle of the night to see if it's safe and secure yet. And if you continue to hunt it poorly, continue to leave scent out there, they're going to come back in the middle of the night. They're going to still smell all that human scent on everything. And they're going to be like, nope, it's not safe. We'll come back maybe in a couple more days, like weeks, whatever. But when you have a shorter season like a gun season and you're only going to hunt that gun season, you have to be very careful with how you hunt it. Because if you bust it out day one, the season will be over before the deer ever reset to what you saw them doing on your trail cameras. Now, with an afternoon sit, what you want to do is, if you know where that bedding area is and you know where that food source is, again, put yourself into one of these deer funnels, one of these pinch points, one of these man-made deer trails, and sit there, not on the actual food source, because sometimes it'll take them too long to get to that food source, especially if they have witnessed more pressure in the woods because it's hunting season. Even if it is just bird hunters, there's more human activity that builds up into the fall in areas of the woods that typically isn't because of all the extra hunting activity. So you want to put yourself closer to the bedding area than to the food source when they're heading to the food source, so that you get a shot on them before it's dark out. Now, ideally, these are going to be your two best stands, your morning stand and your PM stand, that relate to the movement in and out of that bedding area. Now, I hope you guys got some value out of this. If you did, go ahead, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you enjoyed this video, YouTube thinks you're going to enjoy this one. Otherwise, go check out this one. Good luck this season, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.